Desmond Trufant might be gone, but he is certainly not forgotten.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everyone, you are welcome back to another episode of Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. Sirius Black, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. Been covering the Falcons for far too long. Formerly at falcfans.com, RIP, still going strong in this illustrious podcast. And I thank each and every one of you that is an everydayer that subscribes or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And today's episode, we are back for the final round 2 matchup of the Falcons Historian Player Shootout, our summer-long trivia tournament that features us discussing, Falcons legends from the past 20 years and having 2 contestants answer, bizarre, obscure trivia questions about those players to see who has the most mundane knowledge about Falcon players over the last 20 years. And we'll crown that champion. We're only a couple of weeks away from crowning that champion later this summer. And our 2 contestants here talking about Desmond Trufant, Falcons legendary corner for several years, in the teens, 20 teens. I don't know what we call decades in the 21st century. But, our 2 contestants here are Kevin Knight, the host of the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast, part of the Believe in Podcast Network, and of course a frequent contributor over at the Falcoholic, the SB Nation website for the Atlanta Falcons. And he is going up against our promo cutting GSU alum. And, according to him, the real GSU is Georgia State.
It is.
Argue about it in the comments. But he is also an anchor for WTSP Channel 10 down in Tampa Bay, covering the Tampa Bay sports teams, much to all of our chagrin. But as you can tell from his background, he is secretly a Falcon fan.
It's not a secret. It's not.
It really isn't.
My first day on the air, my co-anchor is standing next to me. First day on the air, and he goes, "So I know you're a Falcons fan, but you ready to cover the Bucs?" And I was like, "Did you just blast that on my first day?"
Just want everyone to know you're to blame.
Yeah. So, but people, like I've said before, people are super chill when it comes to the Falcons. They really don't. It's not like I talked to Rondé Barber and he was like, "Nah, we don't really care."
Yeah, it's just like an acquaintance, that
it's just like
you guys.
It's a cousin. It's just like a cousin you have some rivalries with sometimes, but other than that, you're like, "Oh, what's up, guys?"
Now, if you're in New Orleans, it would be a concern.
Yeah.
Be like,
So that's the funny thing. Like, if you ask a Bucs fan and a Falcons fan, who do you dislike the most? The answer is New Orleans, no matter who you ask.
Yeah, that's true. So that is, of course, David Schiele, and of course, helping me with this Falcons Historian Player Shootout is my co-host, Allen Strk, former co-host of the Locked On Falcons podcast and the Falcons podcast, RIP, and also another contributor over at the Falcoholic. So, guys, as we are getting started, let's talk about Desmond Trufant. And Allen, I guess we'll go all the way back because I remember that 2013 draft was like the first one that we were doing for the Falcons Fans podcast way back in the day. And we both wanted another cornerback in that draft, and the Falcons decided they were going to trade up and get Desmond Trufant. I don't want to talk about the corner who it is because there will be potentially a trivia question later that may dip into that conversation, so don't want to spoil anything there. And I just remember being kind of underwhelmed with the Desmond Trufant pick. I was like, yeah, he's good, he's fine, he'll be solid, I guess. Like, do we really need him? I don't know. Like, Brent Grimes is probably better, I don't know, but then he turned out to be one of the best corners in Falcons history, just going to show, like, however, the opinion that you have on draft night, if it's a negative opinion, usually that means the player's going to turn out good. And the more positive you are on draft night, usually the worse the player winds up being. At least that's been my experience. And at least Desmond Trufant is another example of that. But Allen, what are some of your memories for Desmond Trufant, going back over a decade?
I got a great draft night story. So actually, 2013, I was at Radio City for the draft, and I was actually on NFL Network for about 3 seconds, and I was very disappointed by the pick. I actually had my hands up like this. It looks like I was doing the Randy Orton pose, but in reality, I was not happy with the pick. And most of that night, people were very unhappy with the picks. We could say Deion Jordan, when the Dolphins traded up for him, Dolphin fans, there like 40 of them were outraged. I think the Giants took an offensive line. Maybe it was Justin Pugh they were upset about. So it was just a lot of negativity in that Radio City musical. The 2013 draft was very lackluster, if we could, of course, remember. But look, he proved us all wrong. Well, I'm not going to say all of us because we all have different opinions. But for the pick that looked underwhelming, he delivered from the jump. Rookie year, he was thrown into the deep end, and he was playing man coverage regularly. And I think, ironically, at 14, 15, you could put him in the top 5. You could put him up there as the best corner in the league. Like, his ascendance was really quick, and you could depend on him really quickly to cover the biggest receivers. Like, I'll never forget that game against the Browns in particular, where he went up against Josh Gordon. Warden held his own. This was peak Josh Gordon. So the best way I can describe Desmond Trufant, just an absolute warrior who did not get fazed by any sort of matchup. Really good technically, great footwork, great hips, very fluid in coverage, and someone who you can just always count on. I'm sure at some point someone will make a hand joke, so I'll leave it to either Kevin or Dave for that. But for most part, man, to me, he's one of the best corners in franchise history, if not the best corner in franchise history, because I think consistency-wise, he played at a high level for a very long time. I want to quickly ask Kevin, because Kevin, we know you as the draft guy. Were you covering the draft back in 2013, and what were your overall thoughts on Trufant?
Yeah, I actually started my Twitter in 2014, so that was before I was like officially covering it. I was definitely a fan of Trufant, but I wasn't covering the draft like super intently. I know everyone was like all obsessed with D. Milliner. We saw how that went, right? So I guess I'm glad that they didn't go that route. I thought they were gonna take like an offensive lineman. And in hindsight, I think that would have been good, right? given what happened that season. But yeah, I mean, at the time I wasn't covering it super closely, so it was more like, oh, who's the top guys? Yeah, but I think we all kind of knew they needed corner. I wasn't expecting them to hit it like as hard as they did, obviously, in this draft class. But yeah, I mean, he definitely turned out, I think, better than anyone thought. I mean, definitely better than all the corners picked ahead of him, for sure. Arguably the best cornerback pick in the class overall. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of good players in this class, but they were kind of like not in the top 15. I mean, I think maybe like one player in the top 5 ended up being good. But it's like, yeah, it was a weird draft class. So it's kind of remarkable that the Falcons did manage to come away with someone actually worthy of that pick, actually get plus value at that spot. So, Dimitrov, for as much, much hate as he gets, he could pick corners, he could pick receivers. But yeah, that. So good on him for that one. That was a hit for sure.
I think you can say first round picks, not to turn this into Dimitrov pod. But I think his hit rate on first rounds were pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, there were some positions that he was generally good at, but yeah, I mean, yeah, for the most part, not too many complaints with the first round picks. So for the most part, there's a couple.
Yes. What are your lasting memories of Trufant, and how high did you rate him? Not just coming up, but over the course of his career with the Falcons.
Well, first of all, when we said Falcons legend named Desmond, I thought we were talking about Ritter.
This man
he's been gone for like 3 months. He's going to get it for the rest of his life.
So I prepared with Ritter knowledge. I'm just kidding. I will say the pick of Trufant, I wasn't totally sure. Like, I was like, I don't really know much about this guy because, I mean, I didn't watch UW. So, I wasn't super familiar. But I will say, and I'm glad I'm talking to 3 guys here that really know ball, Desmond Trufant was excellent because people get so wrapped up in interception numbers. I was like, it's not always interception numbers. Quarterbacks aren't throwing his way. Like, they're finding where he is and being like, I can't go there. And ones who did found out like, okay, that was a bad decision because it wasn't always intercepted, but it was not always caught. He would put his body there. I think the one thing we haven't mentioned yet though is how much he actually enjoyed tackling and how much how good of a tackler he actually was in space, like most of the time. That was the thing that I was really impressed with, was his ability to play the run at the corner position, and not necessarily like, he wasn't like a, stocky corner. He was kind of a slimmer guy, but he could tackle really well. And then the other thing too was he was available. Like his first 3 seasons, like this dude wasn't off the field much. Like he was healthy. He was on the field. He wasn't missing time. And I think, as much as I am the last guy who wants to talk about this, but I do think if we're going to, rewind the clock a little bit, if you could put Desmond Trufant in the game, Atlanta wins Super Bowl 51. Because Tom Brady's not targeting Jalen Collins consistently in the second half, and Atlanta, we're not talking about, well, they should have ran the ball. Like, no, the Patriots wouldn't have gotten back in the game. Like, that's how I truly feel about it, and that's how good Trufant actually was.
Yes, like him and Adrian Claiborne were definitely missed in that game. One of those two players probably wins. Literally one of anything wins the Falcons.
If the wind blew slightly differently on one pass in particular,
there's a lot we can get into when it comes to the game that we don't like to talk about. Yeah. But in terms of just this conversation, if Trufant's on the field, I do believe the result is different.
I agree 100%. And we're all talking about it, and Alan mentioned it. Like, he was locking down premier wide receivers from jump. Like, I can probably count on one hand over his first 5 years in Atlanta of receivers that gave him problems. Like, it was Antonio Brown, it was Mike Evans, and Mike Evans continues to play every Falcon corner. And it's that's really about it, because I remember him shutting down DeAndre Hopkins, and I remember him shutting down so many other elite receivers during his prime, and that's the thing that you could always say about Trufant, whereas and that was such a core ingredient, talking about that Super Bowl team and their success in those defenses, when back in the days when everybody was excited about that defense is finally coming together. I just remember hearing that constantly in 2016. But so much of the strength of those teams was built around the 1-2 punch of Robert Alford and Desmond Trufant, just basically being able to man up pretty much any wide receiver core in the NFL, that you never went into a game feeling like, man, we're going to really struggle to cover this guy in this game, because you had both of those two guys locking down either side of the field. And Trufant, to me, was such a big part of how those Falcon teams played on defense, which was we're going to play cover 3 zone on early downs, and then on third down, we're just going to man you up. And then we, again, I know we're bringing up this game far too much on this podcast that I would like to do. And the Falcons just leaned into that Super Bowl, which was we're just going to play man coverage the whole game. And we don't think that the Patriots receivers can beat us. And they really didn't, outside of the handful of plays that Jalen Collins gave up. And they just kind of ran out of gas in that game. But, that to me is kind of a testament of Desmond Trufant, that he was a, I know we didn't have great defenses back in that day, but whatever was good about those defenses, I think in a large part was due to the presence of a player like Desmond Trufant. He was the sort of the engine that made those defenses go, much more so than, the non-existent pass rush. But, I'm throwing too much shade towards the Falcons on an episode that we're supposed to be celebrating.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to give him praise for 2017 coming back from the torn Achilles. I think that season kind of gets forgotten about, but he was a huge pillar to their successes. I think 2017 was the last time, maybe besides this past season, where the Falcons defense was highly respectable. And I think that was also Robert Alford's best season. So I didn't think it was maybe late 2018 you saw him creaking, and then 2019 he was hampered by injuries. But when you look at over the course of his career, just consistency and just having that reliable number 1 corner is a blessing, especially when you're on a defense that has its limitations. So huge props to him. And I hope he's someone that gets more recognition, because we were talking before the show. We haven't talked about him for a while, and I feel like no one really talks about him anymore. So I hope we can acknowledge what he did during his 6 seasons in Atlanta.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll leave that aside, and we'll move into the Q&A portion of today's Locked On Falcons Historian Player Shootout. And up next, we'll have Alan asking David 5 questions about Desmond Trufant, and then I'll follow that up with 5 questions for Kevin Knight, and we'll see who gets the most correct. And if there's a tie, we'll potentially go into sudden death overtime. But without further ado, let's put David on the hot seat and ask him some questions about Desmond Trufant. Guys, it is summertime, and I know you won't be able to go to Falcons training camp each and every day, but you just want to get out the house, and that means maybe you should time to get back into the ballpark, and Gametime is taking the guesswork out of buying tickets as an authorized ticket distributor of Major League Baseball. And the thing we love about Gametime is the seat views. Get that panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and their priority last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever event is near you, whether you're into baseball, soccer, football, comedy, music, theater, whatever it is. Download the Gametime app so you can take advantage of this. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So I mentioned in the first round, David got all 5 right. So big expectations. He's going against the champ. So this is a huge matchup. But
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, Kevin's a reigning champ, but no one performed better than you in the first round. So it's high stakes here. First question. Which season did Trufant earn his only Pro Bowl spot?
2015.
That's correct. Which quarterback did Trufant intercept twice to help the Falcons secure a primetime win during the 2019 season?
That was the Eagles, so it had to be Wentz.
That's correct. Question 3, making it look easy. Who did Trufant score his first career touchdown against off a fumble recovery during a dominant win in 2015?
That touchdown is hilarious. That was against the Texans, where didn't the lineman strip Arian Foster? He stripped his own teammate, and he was like, "Oh, whatever." Is it the Texans?
It is the Texans.
Okay, yeah. That touchdown's hilarious, bro.
Yeah. And look, rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. But man, Ryan Mallett threw a lot of that game. There were so many passes going the wrong direction. Just wow.
That was also the Leonard Hankerson game.
It was.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
What a great 3-week run that was. I believe.
This guy's the truth. Oh my gosh, who is this guy?
Leonard Hankerson.
I'm the long-term replacement for Roddy. I'm a believer. Just 3 months later, not on the team.
Yeah.
Question 4. Which season did Trufant have his most pass breakups with 17?
He has 17 pass breakups in a season. I'm going to say I'm stuck between 2 years. I want to say 14.
Your final answer?
Why are you making that face? It might be. I'm stuck between 2 years. I'm going to have to go with 14.
Okay. It was 2013, rookie year.
Oh, I was so close. Okay.
Final question. Trufant was the 3rd cornerback selected in the 2013 draft. Name 1 to 2 cornerbacks taken before him.
Okay. One of them, let's see. 2013. So you had Trufant, and then someone took
just have to name the player.
Yes, but here's the thing. I'm trying to think of who went before him, and there's a name I'm thinking of that I know it's not. I know for a fact it's not that guy. 2013 corner. Shoot, I'm just gonna have to throw a name out there like Tre'Davious White. It's probably not Tre'Davious White. I'm just making stuff up. I don't have it. I don't know. Name one corner. What was his Vontae Davis?
It's incorrect. It was DJ Hayden, or Kevin mentioned him before, D. Milner.
Yeah, I could have just said D.
I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that because I had that question. I was like, did Kevin give it up?
I was like, yeah. Well, I might have done that one.
He did. Yeah, he gave it up, but I'm like, I'm thinking of it, and I'm like, what the heck? The name I was thinking of that I knew was wrong was Joe Hayden. That's why I was like, I know for a fact it's not Joe Hayden, but okay.
I think Joe Hayden was 2014, right, Aaron?
Yeah, he was the year after.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
The player that Alan and I that I referred to earlier was Xavier Rhodes. We both were big Xavier Rhodes fans from that draft class, and we were like, get the 6'3" corner.
And he was picked after
Yeah,
right?
I think he was like one or two picks after.
Yeah. So I was like, it can't be Xavier Rhodes, that's why it tripped me up. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
3 out of 5.
So solid, but this is big competition. It might not be enough.
I know it's Kevin. Like,
I only got 3 in the last round, so you know.
oh my gosh. Well, Aaron, I know how Aaron gets. So Aaron, you better come with it, bro.
Okay.
I'm ready for.
Yeah, Aaron. Name all the true
Aaron made Gina do
girlfriends
math
right now.
Yeah, Aaron made Gina do math in the last episode. So, yeah.
Okay. Clearly, my reputation precedes me on this, but we'll see. Will you be the judge? You know, who had an easier road? I guess we'll do that to wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Passion, drive, patience. It is the formula for winning championships, and it's also what's going to keep your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle or level it up to peak performance. Whether you're looking for superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, or seatbelt covers like I have, whether you're into speeds, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. First question, Kevin. Desmond Trufant had 2 brothers who also played professional football. Name one of them.
Yes, 2 brothers. I think the most famous one's probably Marcus Trufant. So yeah, I'll go with him.
That is correct. The other one being Isaiah Trufant.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the other guy's name. I know there were. I feel like there's a lot of Trufants like running around. I don't know if they're all corners, but I know they were mostly corners.
Number 2, Desmond Trufant's last interception as a Falcon came against the quarterback he picked off the most in his career with a total of 4. Who was that quarterback?
Let's see. So over the timeline, I think the final year he played in Atlanta was 2019. Let's see. Who did he play and pick off the most? Trying to think of probably a division rival, I would assume. Who threw them? Oh, okay. Jameis Winston, right? He threw the most picks of anybody.
That's a great analysis too of this whole breakdown. You broke it up very nicely.
Yeah.
Once you zeroed in on the division,
Yeah,
you
I was
threw
like,
a lot of interceptions.
I
wonder.
this guy, crab legs. Yeah.
So who's the quarterback who pulled off a 30 for 30?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. Desmond Trufant's first sack of his career came in a Week 11 loss to this team in 2015. Who was the team?
All I can think about in 2015 is Leonard Hankerson now, because you guys talked about that. Other than the division rivals, I can't even remember anybody that played that year. So we'll just go with I don't know, like the Saints or something.
That is incorrect. It was the Indianapolis Colts. With
Matt
Hasselbeck.
Matt Hasselbeck. I
Yeah.
feel like, man, if you'd given me the name of the quarterback, I probably would have gotten it wrong. I would have said like the Seahawks or something. So.
Number 4, Trufant had a critical late game interception and a pass breakup on a 2-point conversion try to seal a win versus this team in 2013. Who was that opponent?
Was it Washington? I feel like he picked off Kirk in that game. But yeah, was it Washington?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
You are correct. It was Washington, and it was Kirk Cousins, his second NFL career start.
The Kirk on Kirk crime here. Yeah, got to apologize to Kirk now for all those missteps now that he's here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan threw like 2 picks in that game too.
That was an ugly ass game.
Yeah.
I tried to forget that one.
2013. Less than that.
It was rough. It was. I think I saw the stat. I think it was like 7 turnovers combined in that game. But hey, Trufant showed up in a big way at the end. Number 5. If you get this one correct, I believe you will be going on. So we'll see if this goes in the sudden death. Number 5. Good luck on this question.
Okay, I'm gonna get my calculator out. Hold on.
NFL teams quickly learned that throwing at Trufant was futile. According to Pro Football Focus, Trufant was the second least targeted cornerback on a per snap basis behind this former Falcon cornerback in 2015. Name that former Falcon cornerback.
2015 would have been a former Falcon.
He's scrambling through like 20 names right now.
Yeah, I'm like,
There's a chance you can get it. There's a chance you can get it.
Well, like, man, who could it be? I'm just trying to think of like famous Falcons cornerbacks. I know after they signed or after like they drafted Trufant, they ended up like cutting Sante Samuel like a year later, but that was 2014. I don't know how much longer he played after 2014 because you said 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely wasn't Dunta Robinson. Man, was Brent Grimes still playing then? He's the only. Trying to think of like good Falcons cornerbacks from yesteryear. Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with Brent Grimes just because I think he was the best of all the guys I mentioned out of those three. So we'll go with Brent Grimes.
That is a good guess, but it is incorrect. Surprisingly, it was D'Angelo Malone.
D'Angelo Malone.
What? Legendary corner. Yeah.
I'm so used to talking about D'Angelo Malone and how he's not a legendary player, but so
D'Angelo Hall. Yeah.
D'Angelo.
It was D'Angelo Hall.
Yes.
All right.
Are you serious?
Yes. I threw that in there for Allen because
that man played good football at times. Don't let the tape fool you. He played good football at times.
I think he was still with Washington that year.
Yeah.
That was
That's
like
the year he had 8
year.
picks.
Yeah, he must have picked off Cutler 4 times that year.
That was the 4 pick game, right? Yeah, that's when he had half of his picks in one game, and he Twitter beef with Richard Sherman.
Kev, did Hall enter your mind at any point?
No, because I was like, I feel like, man, Hall did play for a really long time, so maybe I should have thought about it. But yeah.
I think 2015 was that the Hard Knocks moment with Hopkins when Hopkins sent him to the turf.
It might have been.
Yeah, it might have been.
Maybe.
I feel like
I don't know.
Houston was on Hard Knocks around that time, so that you might be right.
Yeah.
Could have been.
That is all right. We got sudden death. Second time for this shootout. Very exciting. Okay.
So how does this work? How does shootout work?
So I'm going to give you one question.
Okay.
And then the first correct answer wins. But let me finish the question, and then you guys could just start saying, because this is going to be quick. This question, I think both you guys will know. So
Okay.
let me finish it, and then first answer. You get it. Okay, so in 2017, Desmond Trufant won NFC Defensive Player of the Week once. Name the opponent he did it against. Go.
Packers.
Aaron, who said first?
I heard David.
I think it was David. To be fair.
All right, Dave, you got it.
Cool.
That's correct.
Congrats.
Don't just be quick with that one. 'cause-
I was at that game. That's
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it has to be Packers. I was there. I got the hat that says inaugural Mercedes-Benz game.
That's right, first one.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the champ is done on sudden death.
It's okay. It was a worthy defeat. I gotta get out of the way for some new blood. I don't want to hog the trophy every year. So
Oh, man,
Well,
that's such a-
see, if you had gotten the D'Angelo Hall one, I would have been like, this is why he's the champ. Because there was no way.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, didn't I tell you that's how Aaron get down? I told you.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron just
I knew he
goes.
was gonna bring me one at least. Yeah. so.
You knew. I was like, yeah, if Kevin gets this, he's the champ.
Aaron went for bringing math up to Pro Football Focus.
This former Falcons cornerback was targeted the least. I was like, dude.
Aaron knows Kevin's a PFF guy, but dang,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
little
true.
over top.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, man.
Look, I will not apologize for impossible number 5 questions in round 2. You got to earn it. You got to
That's
earn the
true.
win.
Okay.
The fifth
you're
question's
right.
supposed to be hard. That's true. Yeah.
You're right.
So, all right, David, you will be moving on to semifinals where you will be going against Will McFadden, and the player you will be quizzed on is Julio Jones.
That's
It's
my
big
guy.
time now. It's
Yep.
big time. We're getting the legends in. Aaron's got Corey. They will both be quizzed on Mike Vick. You'll be quizzed on Julio Jones, and then the championship will, of course, be Matt Ryan. So it's all rounding out now.
Okay. So I got Julio. That's what's up.
Yeah. And Aaron's promised the listeners, at least I hope that he will wear his Michael Vick jersey on the episode we record. It might be a crop top, so beware. I got a Julio jersey, by the way. I will be wearing a Julio jersey, and yes, it fits very well.
Yeah. So does mine. Yeah. And
you guys I can't wear mine anymore because once he signed it, I was like, never wearing this.
Never again.
Yeah.
So, congratulations, David. If you feel compelled to cut any more anti-Terry Fontenot promos, you now have the floor. But generally, we give you the floor to plug whatever is going on in your life at this point in time. But since you did such a great job bashing, the Falcons general manager, we won't stop you again if you did it again this time.
Well, I'm not gonna bash him again. I do stand on what I said. I'm not going to change my mind about that. But this is just a reminder to all of Falcons Twitter that I was right about Arthur Smith. I told you he was a bad head coach. You told me I didn't know what I was talking about because I work in Tampa Bay. You forgot that I am a Falcons Twitter OG. And so this entire tournament has been a revenge tour to let Falcons Twitter know that you will acknowledge me.
There you go. Kevin, what are you working on?
I don't have anything that intense. Yeah, great job. That was absolute cinema. Yeah.
If he wins in the semis, who's next? Is Caleb McGarry next? Like, which poor will they feel the wrath of David?
I don't. Yeah, no. Caleb McGarry already gives me dirty looks at camp, so I can't say anything else about him. But
what's the story there? What happened?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've been the most complimentary, but also don't think I've been the most negative. So. I don't know. Maybe he just like naturally looks like that. I mean, Caleb McGarry's got an intensity to him, so maybe that was just collateral damage. Like he was intensely thinking about like a rep that he had lost or something and like was just like internally angry. And I just like got the side glance of that. So I don't, every time I've actually talked to him, very nice. So can't say too much, but I definitely need to stay on his good side from now on, it seems like. But just doing lots of shows. Adnan will be down there covering it for us. And Gina will be there as well. So we'll be doing lots of training camp live shows following practice. So we'll have a show Wednesday, which is when people report, and then we'll probably do a Thursday show recapping day one, and we'll go from there. But yeah, keep an eye on that. And obviously we'll have all the written stuff for you guys at thefalcoholic.com too. So
there you guys have it. We'll see how the future of the Falcons Historian Shootouts go with training camp going on, because we might have to condense some episodes, but we'll figure it out. You guys will get the full force in some form or fashion, but just because, other stuff is going on, there might be some tweaks to sort of the format for these last 3 episodes that we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. But that is what is in store here on Locked On Falcons. Thanks to David. Thanks to Kevin. Looking forward to those future matchups with David and Will. And, of course, me going up against Corey to see who is going to be the champ here. Kevin, of course, we appreciate your contributions here. Of course, obviously, you did a great job 4 years ago when we did this thing back then. And, of course, you did an outstanding job this time, D'Angelo Hall questions aside. But
I'm washed, clearly, at this point. So, yeah, couldn't get the D'Angelo Hall.
That is going to do it for us here, guys, on today's Locked On Falcons Historian Player Shootout. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with big topics about the opening day of training camp and what storylines we should be focused on as camp unfolds over the next 6 weeks between now and the regular season. So that is your first listen. Continue to subscribe or follow for free here on Locked On Falcons on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out Locked On Sports Today as well as Locked On Sports Atlanta. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.